All right, guys, so notes 12.2, nets today. Hope 12.1 went all right, but of course I'll be in class on Wednesday if y'all had any questions. So nets are pretty easy. It's like you take a 3D object and you unfold it and lay it flat, okay? The actual definition of a net is a two-dimensional drawing of a three-dimensional object. So we kind of did this yesterday when we drew the certain views from the 3D figure, but this one actually has to fold out and fold back into the exact shape. So it's a little bit different. I'm gonna sketch you a net real quick. I'm gonna do the net of a cube. I know a cube has 6 sides, so it's gonna have to be 6 squares, but it's their arrangement that really matters because there's lots of nets you could draw that won't fold back up. So I'm gonna draw one that does, I know for sure. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. That shape will always work to give you a cube. Now we're talking about prisms today, and this is a prism right here. It's a rectangular prism. We usually name them for the shape of their base, and we'll talk about what that is here in just a second. The first thing you need to know about this is that there are faces. Pretty much every side of this is a face. It's the shapes that make up the three-dimensional object. So maybe I have a face right back here. This side one right here is a face. Remember, this is in 3D, so I'm going to say that was on the back wall, but basically anything's a face, so it's pretty easy to see those. The bases are like the floor and the ceiling. Sorry, having trouble writing this morning, goodness gracious. So it's like the floor and the ceiling, and this is what we name them for. They're two congruent parallel faces, okay? So if I had like a hexagonal prism, it doesn't matter which way it's laying. The hexagons are the floor and the ceiling. The other sides are like the walls, okay? So a lot of times they're shaded. I'm going to kind of shade it in yellow here. So like this would be a base. That would be a base on this particular picture. So I'll kind of write it over there. Okay? We also have a few parts of these where they connect. The base edges, these are like around the floor and the ceiling. Like I have a base edge right there. I'm going to put B edge. But you also have them up here as well. So there's another base edge. So those are pretty easy. Then you have the lateral edges. These are like from the ceiling to the floor. So all these side ones right here, these are lateral edges. And see, sometimes we talk about the lateral faces. That's like the walls. So when you hear the word lateral, you might think of the walls. And then a vertex, of course, we've seen these before. This is where those are going to intersect. So we've got lots of vertices on there. And that's pretty much all the things you need to know. Now, it's kind of hard to visualize what these would look like without seeing some. And we don't have any that actually fold out here. So I'm going to show you a little thing here that I found. This might make it a little bit easier. You really have to imagine what things are going to look like. It can be kind of tough. So we're going to look here at a cube. I mean, you can see that's kind of what we were drawing the other day. We've seen lots of these, though. So I'm going to see what it looks like when we unfold it into a net. Now, that's not the same picture I drew just a second ago. If you look over at mine has these two outer squares in different spots. But when you're doing cubes, really, you can move this around that way or that way. As long as these two pieces are on opposite sides, it'll generally fold up. So I could have one here and here instead, and it would still work. The basic thing that you need to remember for prisms is like you're walking down a sidewalk, like it unfolds, and then those are the two flaps or your two bases. Let me erase that, and we can look at that transition again. I think I'm using the wrong one. There we go. Nope, that's not it either. Well, anyway, we'll see it anyway. So let's see if I can turn that into a solid again. So you can kind of see how it wraps up there. I'll push it again. It just kind of cuts open and unfolds. So let's go back to the notes, because what it asks us to do here is draw a net that would form a cube and one that would not. So like I said, when you're drawing a cube of really any prism, you've got the pieces that wrap around. They're usually squares or rectangles. And I think of it like a sidewalk. And I know on a cube there's 4 of them. And then you can put these other ones on any side you want in any place as long as they're on opposite ones. So that would form a cube. If I erase those and put one here and one here, that would be a cube. So really anywhere you want. One thing that would never form a cube would be if I did that 4 again, the sidewalk, but I put them both on the same side, because when I fold this up, these two are going to end up overlapping each other, and there's going to be one open side of your cube. So I'll show you some more wrong ones as we go through. Now let's look at a net real quick. This one should be easy. It says if the net below is folded along the dotted lines, what type of figure would be formed? Now the easiest way to do this, and this is a different looking net than we had a second ago. It could have been drawn like one of these. Well, not that one obviously, but like that one. But they did it a different way. But what you want to look at is the two congruent pieces that are the biggest. Generally those are the bases. So I'm looking right here. Even if I didn't, all these shapes are the same. They're all rectangles. So if I was going to name this one, I'd call it a rectangular prism. Okay, a rectangular prism. And the reason is the bases are rectangles. So whenever you're looking at one of these things, what's like the dominant shape in there, that there's two of them, they're exactly the same. And I realize there's three in this one, but this one's pretty, you know, they're all rectangles. There's nothing you can do about it. Let's go to the next page. Now it says draw two different nets that will fold to make the three-dimensional figure below. So this is a triangular prism. And if you look, there's like three rectangles kind of going around, but there are two congruent triangles. So this is a triangular prism, okay? Now the easiest way to do this is just like we did the last one. Those shapes that aren't triangles are all rectangles, and there's three of them. So I'm just going to draw a sidewalk with three squares, and then you can put those triangles wherever you want as long as they're on opposite sides. That will always fold up. Now we're assuming this is an equilateral triangle and all the rectangles are basically the same, so that'll work every time. But if I was going to draw a second one, you could do something similar. So you might take a second, try to draw another net. You can pause. I'm going to use the same system. I'm going to draw three of these, and I'm going to put them both like this, but that'll still work. There's another way to do prisms. This is kind of how the rectangular one worked, is you draw one of your bases, and then you draw a rectangle on every side, and then maybe you put another triangle on that base that folds up over the top. So there's lots of ways to look at these. And the last one, it says draw the solid that would be formed from the net below from two different perspectives. These are questions that have been on the STAR test before. It's kind of tough because you have to use your perspective, but if you fold this up, they have to be in certain places. Like these two are always going to be across from each other. These two are always going to have to be next to the sun. So I'm going to draw one. I'm going to put the star on the very top one. So when I'm drawing it here, guys, I'm putting it on the top. There's my star, as horrible as it is. Then I'm going to know that the sun is exactly opposite of that. So if that's on the top, that's a horrible star. Then the sun needs to be on the bottom, because those are across from each other. So that's on the bottom. Now the moon and the dot, I'm going to put the dot on the front one right in front of me, because I know it has to be right next to this one. That's right next to it. Then I'm going to flip it around, and on the side, I'm going to put my crescent moon. Now you kind of have to use your perspectives here and realize where I put them all. That leaves the two blank ones. It's like I kept this one on the bottom. This one came up to be the back wall, this one the top. That one's the left wall, and that one's the right wall. And this one's the blank wall on the left. So I want you to pause and try the other one real quick, and I'm going to do another one in just a second. It may be different from yours, and that is okay. So let's try it out real quick. When I did mine, I basically flipped it. I put the star on the bottom. I put the sun on the top. So basically the same thing, just flipped upside down. I put the moon still over here. And what that did is it made that black dot go onto the back wall here. So it's behind. So guys, it's all about perspective. And, you know, I'll be here in class tomorrow if we have any questions on this. Your homework's pretty easy, but kind of think and, you know, put in your mind, you know, what would this look like if I fold it up? What would it look like if I cut it open? So good luck, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.